Stuey Byrne is with us. Stuart, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning.
Let's talk Shelbourne first, right? Because Jesus Christ, what a roller coaster!
Yeah.
Like, could they not just have a routine 3-0 victory and everybody moves on with their lives? It is, a high wire act.
It is, yeah. It's hard for me to watch the games actually because you're so emotionally involved, But obviously you have to put your pundit hat on, if that's what we're called. What do we call these days?
Analysts, senior analyst, Stuey Byrne.
Senior analyst, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was bizarre. It was a bit bizarre. But it's sort of. I mean, I don't know whether we were talking about this last week, and it's something that's kind of been very much in my. It's probably always been in my head, but it's been in my head because of this sort of this whole. I think there's a whole overcoaching thing going on, and we talked about last week about this sort of in-game intelligence and reacting to what's going on in the game, and ultimately that's what happened for Shells. They got the sending off, put a completely different complexion on the game. I don't know how you can't send them off, to be quite honest.
I know it was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was reckless. And to be fair to the lad, Fitzpatrick, we all know what he's trying to do. He's trying to take the ball down. He's just completely gotten his bearings wrong, and I don't think you can have any complaints about it. And then, of course, I think it settled Shells. Definitely, there's nothing in the game. To be quite honest with you, a different Linfield turned up than would have 5 weeks prior for obvious reasons. And they got some good players, I have to say. And he's a shrewd operator. You can see he can set up his team. But to be quite honest, when you're at that level, you're playing games to qualify for the group stages of European competition. You're always going to be playing against somebody who's worthy of being there.
Yeah.
So it was always going to be a difficult tie, and even the whole emotional thing with Linfield having played them before. I think Shells are the ones that I suppose it was not banana skin, but I think the focus was definitely on Shelbourne, because they are considered to be the favourites, and Healy kind of played in that a little bit as well,
Oh yeah.
To his credit, and that again all the stuff you got to expect. This is part of the game, So, definitely the sending off helped them, and then the two penalties. But there's no doubt about it. The penalty save has completely changed the game for me. I think it's a completely different affair if it goes 2-2. And the penalty save is huge. It's a fantastic save as well. So I don't know if you ever seen keeper in real life. He's a big guy. For him to get down that low, so near to him. So it was a very impressive save. I was right beside it, actually having a look at it. So, but it was just one of them games where Shells kind of had to, I suppose, they kind of had to manage the situation as it was unfolding. Game plan obviously goes completely out the door when the sending off happens and things sort of change. They have to react, and they did. To be fair, Evan Caffrey, I thought, was, again, if we want to talk about changing the game, you've got to give huge credit to Joey O'Brien because he takes Sam Bone off.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched the game. Sam Bone was playing left of a back three. He ended up playing like an inside left forward. It was bizarre. I think even he himself was going, I mean, I'm finding myself completely up the pitch here because Linfield are so deep. Sam Bone ended up being probably the one player who was delivering crosses into the box, not from a wide position, from an inside position. So Joey's completely spotted this and said, look, you've got to get Sam off. It's not his game. Obviously with the sending off, we're comfortable enough to stay with the back three or a back two. Puts Evan on, and Evan completely. I mean, he literally creates the goal in the first couple of minutes, and he was excellent throughout the game.
You were saying about the emotion around Evan Caffrey is all right. So he went to the wrestling on Friday because the game wasn't on between Rovers and Shells, so he got the night off, which is good for him after he did his Randy Orton celebration. But he was saying to Nathan after the game as well, his granddad brought the pennant over to Barcelona for Shells back in the day, was it half a century ago?
Right.
So he was saying in their family home, he basically grew up with Shells memorabilia all over.
I think I remember. Yeah, actually, I think I remember this. I was aware of the connection, all right, with Evan. And
Theo Dunn.
It is Theo, isn't it?
So yeah.
I remember Theo at Home Farm and the UCD, but it must be. I mean, I think Joey's been saying for a while that Evan's been really banging on. He's been playing quite a lot in the league, like, you know, and I think maybe in the European games might be sort of chopping and changing a little bit, but he certainly took his opportunity when he came on the other night. He was a breath of fresh air, to be quite honest with you, and he was really direct as well, which is kind of really refreshing to see, like, especially in the European game, because again, we can often fall into that sort of false sense of security in European games that you're supposed to kind of sit in and keep the ball and be patient and all this kind of stuff. And then when things change, you know, when I suppose the factors change in the game, you got to react differently. And he was literally what Shells needed, like, you know, literally. And considering that he sort of created the first goal with his first touch, or the first bit of play that he created in the first minute of the second half. It could probably just goes to show you that the game was just crying out for him, like, or that type of player.
Can they learn anything from a month ago up in Belfast? And, like, I do take the point that obviously a lot's changed with the football at Linfield, have gotten the fitness and everything since. But, like, Shells could have been 2-0 down in that game, in the second leg, and, like, that lead could have slipped away. I wonder if there's something they can learn from maybe not being as passive as they were maybe in the first half of that match. Yeah,
definitely. No, there's no doubt about it. Windsor's a great ground. There's no doubt about it. I would have Windsor's, you know, as probably my top 3 or 4 grounds you'd love to go and play.
How come?
You know, because it just has that sort of history, and it's, you know, it's in a sort of the Unionist area, and the drive up in the red brick houses, and it's kind of buried in some monk, you know, and you kind of love all that. Like, it's a bit like going to the old Lansdowne Road kind of a thing, like, you know. And then the stadium, of course, has been modernised, so it looks fantastic. But
like Luton Town,
it has that football history, if you know what I mean, like, you know. And you know you're going to get a bit of stick, and so you want that, like, you know, because you want to be kept on your toes. You know, you don't want to be going to these sort of kind of passive, you know, quiet places where it sort of
windswept Sunday League.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so Windsor's a proper football ground, like, and it also has that huge history, you know. So,
and you have a chance of winning, isn't it? It's like anytime you're going there as a visitor, you always know whoever's there.
You want to win the game.
But you have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, and of course, you know, when they played them the last time, that's when they progressed, and there was a little bit of afters going on, and then of course that'll be brought back again for the game on Thursday. But that's fine, you know. I think that's. I do think that's an important part of the game, you know, and I think it's a part of the game that probably it can. I don't know whether it's taboo to say it, but I like that. I actually like the fact that there's somebody in the crowd waving the Union Jack and calling me, you know, a Fenian or whatever. You know, that's fine. I actually think that's allowed. Believe it or not, there are rules in football where you can say certain things, you can't say other things, like, you know. But if it's within the 90 minutes, and it's you know, it's
on the right side of the law.
On the right side of the law, football banter, you know, you got it. I like that. I think that's allowed, and I think that's important as well. And I do think Shells will need that, because you need that reminder immediately that you're not this isn't going to be an easy task. Like, in fact, this is going to be anything but.
Yeah.
This is one of those stereotypical cliche. First goal, unbelievably important. If Shells get the first goal, it's game over. If Linfield get the first goal, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, of course. Of course, yeah. No, without a doubt. I think they'll talk about that. And will you rightly say sort of they could have been 2-0 down the away game. And that was primarily because Linfield were very direct, you know, just literally good, you know, not outstanding deliveries into the box. Miller has that great delivery, like, you know, but he can certainly put it into an area that can cause, or let's say, how would you say, would benefit Linfield's more physical approach, because, you know, they play with 2 up top, and the 2 lads are very physical. Fitzpatrick won't be playing, but obviously he'll probably replace Fitzpatrick with somebody else as physical. But they love that physical presence, so Shells are going to have to be ready for that. The other situation was obviously Conor got a little bit lax with his touch, and kind of gifted an opportunity to, I can't remember who the player was, but he should have stuck it in the back of the net. It was a loose back pass. I think that ultimately won't happen again, because that's down to the environment, and that's maybe a little bit of nerves, getting used to the ground. Getting used to the environment. I don't see that as being a factor this time, because the Shells have been there, they've done the trip, they've kind of gone through it again. I think they'll be much more comfortable playing in Windsor. And ultimately, when you do strip away the sort of the emotional environment and the area in which you're playing. The ground is a stunning ground, and the pitch is perfect, and it is a fantastic place to go and play. And I do think the bigger pitch kind of suits Shells as well.
A lot was made of the fact that it's a different Linfield team from the one that they played the first time around, because they've a lot of players back from injury and they've played some games and they're fully fit. But it's a very different Shelbourne team as well. They have a new goalkeeper, they have a new defender, and they've 2 new players who haven't really fully we've seen just yet. But apparently Jack Henry Francis is back in training and he's been wowing his teammates. So do you stick him straight in for a game like this?
No. I think Joey will probably go with. If not, you'd probably go with the same team. Possibly. I don't think he likes to change too much. Sean Boyd is. I know he's got that. I think he was okay I think he might have been okay to go on the bench last week, but I don't think they want to risk him. So I think he'll definitely be available for Thursday in terms of maybe to come off the bench. But no, I don't think he's going to change too much in that respect. I like him bang. I have to say. I think there. You can see that he's only just come in because Shells. Haven't fully yet kind of gotten used to him sort of being in the team. I think they underutilise him a little bit at the moment. He picks up some really high positions, and he's definitely got goals, and there's no doubt about it, because he gets so high up the pitch, and he's always sort of, even he himself, he's tentative whether to kind of take those chances going in at the back stick, and sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't, because he's obviously just trying to get used to playing in the Shelbourne team. But I do think when he clicks, I think he could be a huge player for them. I think the pitch again will suit him tomorrow night. So a lot of the game on last week, especially in the first half, seemed to go down Shell's left hand side. I think Linfield may have probably tried to kind of force them down that end. So I would imagine the staff would have looked at that game again and realised that maybe they didn't utilise Milan and bang enough especially in the first half.
What's his best position?
In bang?
Yeah.
I think where he's playing. I watched him in the Rijeka game at home, and I felt he really had the left foot in trouble. Left foot looked very leggy in the first half because of how direct he was, how dynamic he was. He's quick and he's strong, and he's so up there, like in a very, not something you would see too much from League of Ireland teams for a player to be so advanced. But certainly he gave Rijeka a headache in the first half, and I like him playing there. I think that kind of suits Shells where they are at the moment. It's just the fact of utilising them more, and especially when JJ Lunny or McEnroy, both left-footed players, they had that ability to kind of just get him away really early. And I just think it's a matter of clicking. Again, it's because it's game by game. I think they'll get used to how he plays.
Because they're out of the cup this game, we know from the money talk that we had the last time in that the difference between getting into the group stages is going to be transformative for them, just in terms of being able to keep the current playing squad and invest next year. So you can make another run at the title next year off the back of this. It's such a big game for the league, for the European coefficient. We're talking about Celtic not automatically qualifying for the group stages. That's because the rest of the teams haven't done their stuff. Irish teams need to, in European football, do their stuff for 3 or 4 years to get up, so that we're getting a team automatically through to the group stages of the Conference League. Or I don't even know if you can do that, but the equivalent of that.
It's a big gap. Obviously, we weren't helped by the fact that Drogs didn't pick up any points because they were knocked out of the competition. But 2 going into the group stages, I think particularly for the champions path, there's Stados who know this much better than me, but I saw a few kind of breakdowns if 2 were to qualify. Straight away, we're picking up double points for everything that we do in the Conference League this season, which might help them navigate around further down the champions path, particularly next year.
So maybe we get a team into the Europa League faster.
Potentially. Put you in a much better position.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole coefficient thing has been something that has been sort of it was always on our minds, back in the early noughties, because you quickly understood that, the better you did every year, I wouldn't say easier, but you weren't being pipped against these top teams in the first round of competition. So that's always been something that's always been there. But the fact that 2 Irish League of Ireland teams are on the verge of qualifying for group stage European football on the same night is, I don't know whether it's hit people or whether maybe I'm old now and I've remembered the dark days where it literally, to get past the first round was like a monumental task. But this is incredible stuff. Like, it really is.
We're almost getting too used to it now, Stewie.
Well,
Stephen Bradley was talking about changing around the league fixtures earlier in the summer. I was kind of thinking the Irish teams nearly navigate the first or second round, and you almost expect it to happen now. It's not that long ago, probably a decade ago, we were arguing you have to go to a summer league because we need to get past the round.
Yeah, I know. And that's a good thing. Like, that's a wonderful thing. That's exactly the place we want to be. But no, certainly it's one of those situations where on, I don't know, 9:45 on Thursday night, you could be literally pinching yourself saying, two teams are now in group stage football, or of course, being Irish, you tend to think of the negative. Maybe
It never crossed my mind, Stuey. What are you talking about?
No, yeah. But well, I always tempt fate. I just do something.
You're reverse jinxing it there.
I'm one of those people. I walk under a ladder just to annoy somebody, like, or whatever. But no, I think I actually genuinely am very confident it's going to happen. For different reasons, actually. But just to go back to your point on Shelbourne and the money, and of course, see, Shells are now in a huge transitional period, right? Not just because they're back on their feet football wise, and they're now sort of back at the top of back where they should be, back where we've all expected them to be. Like, I was getting a little bit fatigued with the whole, there's a generational gap in Shelbourne supporter. There's the supporters who remembers my year and the good, and we're expected to win league titles and all this kind of stuff. And then there's the guys who think that winning the first division is the greatest thing that ever happened to them. And, that annoys me a little bit, to be quite honest with you. That's not where Shells need to be, to be quite frank. Shelbourne are a team that have been in, club that have been around since 1895, winning league titles and playing in or having huge European successes. So where they are now is where they need to be. But just from even the ownership point of view of the club, everything is happening now with the ground. A lot of hard work is coming down the track with regards Tolka and what they do with Tolka, and there's going to be a lot of negotiation going on with Dublin City Council. There's obviously this option for Shells to reacquire the ground based on certain criteria. Certainly having 4 million in the bank from European football will definitely help that. It'll also help the owners, because the owners are, this is football at the moment. They're putting a lot of money in, a lot of time and effort. I have to say the owner at the moment, Neil Doyle, is like, he deserves huge credit for not just the fact that he's put his money where his mouth is. He's put his time. He's constantly there. Like, he's very much of the old school owner in that he's there in the ground. I mean, I remember Ollie Byrne being there in the ground, living in the place, like, and Neil and Ollie are night and day. And sorry, Neil, not liking to Ollie Byrne, but he's fantastic for. But he himself and the others who have invested in the club, like, I suppose it's important for them to get a few bob back, maybe to maintain that momentum and to keep these guys hanging around for a couple of more years.
Yeah, and I don't think any of them are in it for the short haul, but I think
some of them are. There's no doubt about it. You can be sure some of them are in it for the short haul. Yeah.
I don't think the owners are. I think they're.
Not Chelsea owners.
Yeah,
we've seen very recent owners.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They're gone within a couple of years.
But the fact that they have already lost $1 million a year over the last couple of years, as Tomas Quinn went public with that when he was doing media a couple of months ago, and nights like tomorrow night. But I do think the coefficient thing means that it's good for Drogheda. It's good for. Maybe Droghera's a bad example, but it's good for any of the other clubs who are actually playing. It's good for whoever wins the cup this year because it's an easier route for them. So the actual European coefficient is pretty interesting. It's on the UEFA website. You can see it. We're ranked 31, and there's a good gap between us. Russia obviously don't count at the minute. there's a good gap between us and the 29th team, who happen to be Bulgaria, funnily enough, and then Azerbaijan, Ukraine. But it's not the type of gap that wouldn't be closed by 2 years of three teams being in group stages of Conference League. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, our players are starting to get transferred for way more than 2 million. They're getting transferred for 5 million, and that's paying for 8 academy staff. And suddenly there's a full industry there.
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you about the Ireland squad. Seamus Coleman's not in it. Jason Malumbi's not in it. Is it a big deal that either of these players are missing? Would you like Seamus to be there for, or is he too professional and too much of a hard-nosed, kill your granny type person that, like, it's great to have him around and everything, but actually he doesn't want to be there unless he's going to play?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a bit of that. I mean, Hallgrimsson, I suppose, spoke that they had this conversation, and I would imagine that if anything Hallgrimsson said was not to any Seamus Coleman's liking, we'd have heard about it by now. So you'd have to take that in face value. I think he's a genuine guy, Hallgrimsson, I have to say. I found him to be quite straight, and well, as straight as they come, and as genuine as well. Like, you know, well, this is it. So this is now, he's had his, you know, we'll call it whatever you want, honeymoon period, you know, bedding period, all this kind of stuff. This is now it. Like, you know, I can't help but think that he's putting his own stint on the squad. I think he's gone for flexibility and energy, and basically wants players that are ready are kind of ready to play, and also I think you might see a situation. How do I put this without, you know, I'm not saying he's purposely disregarded the strong characters, but I think he's picked a squad that are that will probably take his orders quite easily. Like I think he's trying to uncomplicate things, maybe, you know, that kind of way. This is your job, go and do it. You know, very much from on the Iceland, you know, style, and he kind of alluded to a little bit in his interview. You know, he spoke about, well, with Iceland we played 2 up top. I think we're going to play 2 up top, and I think he's very much trying to kind of. He's gone for flexibility, players that can play in different roles, that can, on the drop of a hat, can shift to different positions on the pitch. That will, if you take them off after a half time, they're not moaning and groaning. And if they're not playing, they're not moaning and groaning. He's trying to uncomplicate it all. Everything does really hinge on the first 2 games. Yeah. And, you know, for us, especially for us anyway.
I think as well on Coleman, right? So when he first came in, he admitted that he spoke to John O'Shea, and John O'Shea said, look, Coleman is the leader of this group. So he was bringing him in almost as like a non-playing captain for the first couple of windows, because he wanted to use Coleman as a sounding board and get a feel for
it. Right, of course.
Like, if you think about it, in this calendar year, Coleman has barely played for Everton. So, like, realistically, you couldn't pick him. If you were bringing him in the squad, it would be to have a leader in the squad. Yeah. And I think maybe Hallgrimsson is now confident enough in what he knows about this group that he doesn't really need Coleman to be there.
Yeah, well, and don't forget, I mean, this is something that kind of maybe catches people by surprise sometimes, that like Nathan Collins is like, what is he, 40 plus, coming up on nearly 50 caps. Yeah. Matt Doherty, we've players in the squad that are all on high 30s, 40s. You know, they're the experienced players now. You know, so there's been that shift. You might argue it's kind of come in quite quietly, maybe compared to different times, but. You know, every manager, I suppose, especially when it comes to a major competition qualification, they have to make big calls. I mean, you see Charlton did it, you know, admitting Liam Brady, and although that's a completely different situation altogether, like, you know. But the point is, I suppose Charlton at the time had to put his own stint on it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked for him. The group wouldn't have bought into him. He couldn't buy into the group. And we can all argue whether that was right or wrong, you know. But ultimately, we qualified. I think this is. There are similarities. It's not the same thing, and I can see the headlines now saying, "Oh, you know, Hallgrimsson admitting Coleman is like Charlton." No, of course not. Yeah. But what Hallgrimsson is doing is this is now his squad. This is now his way. This is his team, and he's picked a team that get him, I suppose. And it's very much. Again, not to state the obvious, everything is going to be sorted out over the space of. We're either going to be still in this after 4 days, or we're going to be out of it.
Yeah, and it's the same for the next window as well. Like, it is a short, sharp shock, and it is a short, sharp shock And stupid not as it sounds, got a little bit of hope heading into it. Like,
I agree. I do agree. I think Hallgrimsson, he's done a great job of bringing confidence back and the hope back. Yeah, and isn't it amazing how these are? I always find these are the things that are kind of very much missing from the game at the moment. I mean, there's so much analysis about the game now, so much data. There's 2-hour build-ups to games now. There's 4 hours post-match, people talking left, right and centre about things, and it always comes back to players talking about the data and the tactics and all that kind of thing. And very much one of the most important things is confidence. It's just pure confidence, and you rightly said hope. I suppose the fans need hope. I don't think players thrive off hope. Fans certainly thrive off hope. But if you've got fans going to games that have hope, then there's a positive energy going on the pitch. The players feel confident, and it's a completely different story. And it's definitely a side of the game I feel has been way underlooked. But there's no doubt about it. He's what he's done very well. Well, even though the last 2 friendlies were draws, of course, but he has ultimately almost replaced draws for either wins or losses. The losses have come against the big teams, the Greece, Portugal, England, but we've won games that, beaten Hungary and beaten good teams. So that's now. I can't stress how important that is for a player in their mindset. How that sort of just changes things a little bit, especially during a game, or when you're playing against opposition that maybe you weren't expected to beat in the past, but all of a sudden you've got this different approach, and it's huge. That's huge. So he's done a very good job at reinstilling that confidence and that Irish, as well as keeping that kind of Irish energy and what you're expected as an Irish player to how you're expected to play.
So it's going to be Josh Cullen and Jason Knight as the 2 in front of the back.
Are you
four.
the team there, do you?
Well, I mean that's what we think, right? Who else is going to play? Do you think he can play Ferguson and Parrott? He played them against...
I think he plays Ferguson and Parrott, yeah. I think this is what I think. I think he plays Ferguson. I think we'll ultimately adopt sort of a 5-3-2 sort of a thing.
Right, because he hasn't done the...
I think he likes Smodic quite narrow. I think you might see Knight, Cullen and Smodic as a 3, and
the 2 lads in front, and then...
2 lads up front, yeah. Parrott will... Parrott... I remember in the last 2-1 win, I can't think of how it's gone out of my head, but obviously Ferguson and Ida played together. I think Adam Ida either came on or Ferguson came on, one or the other. But when they did come on, the 2 of them, they looked a handful, And I actually like us playing with 2 up top for a number of reasons. It forces us to be a little bit more direct, which I'm not saying we should be purposely bypassing midfield. But when you look at the quality throughout the team and where we're strong, I like us defensively. I like us centrally. I like us quite a lot. Strong, very strong. We are very strong down the spine of the team, with the exception of midfield. But so I think we have players at the back, especially in the place of Nathan Collins, that can deliver. Passes into the front man quite early. So I think that's the way we need to play.
Do you put Ferguson and Parrott right up beside each other then? Because if you
they won't play like that. They won't.
Parrott kind of playing behind him in the.
They won't play like that. Well, I don't know if you. Evan Ferguson for me is the one that naturally likes. I know they both like to do it. He likes to drop back in. I think you have to allow that, and I think Parrott might be the one that will play a little bit higher up the pitch. He's the one that's getting the goals at the moment, so you actually want him higher up the pitch
Parrott's
as well.
The 9 and Ferguson plays as
I feel that's the way. Yeah, absolutely. And I like Ferguson coming from deep as well. He's got all his, all his best stuff comes when he comes from deep, and he arrives in late into the box, and he's sort of drifting in unmarked. So I think that's the way we'll go. The midfield, I suppose, problem. I think he'll shore up by just kind of playing quite a compact 3 and try to kind of maybe just go wide and just be more direct up to the front.
I know he's kind of only coming back, but does that mean that Ogbene possibly doesn't get into the team right now? I know he can play right.
Yeah, I think you're looking at that at the moment. I mean, it's very unfortunate from him, because he's been our star for the last 18 months up until he got the injury back in. Has it March? He hasn't played since he's probably even longer, is it? Ogbene, but he's been the one that's been the shining light, I suppose. But he his performances were very standout, you know, because I felt that maybe the team was kind of on a downward spiral at the time. Yeah, it was quite flattened. It was his energy. Do you know what? He was just bringing a normal energy to the game. The rest were just sort of maybe falling behind. But Hallgrimsson, I do think he's very much a manager that likes balance in the team. He obviously has a very specific way in which he likes to play, and I think he likes to just get that balance right. And I do think Benny, no doubt about it, will be a starter, but maybe not. This could be maybe a little bit early for him.
All right, Stuey, we got to leave it there. Thanks a million.
Thanks, guys.
Big week for the League of Ireland. Obviously, that game in Tala is live on Off the Ball on Thursday night, and on Sunday we have live Premier League action. It's Liverpool against Arsenal. I'm fairly sure Brian Kerr is on co-com alongside Stephen Doyle for that one.